I've got no great desire to do anything other than comics. I think that it's a bit of a shame that sometimes people tend to regard, even people in the industry, tend to regard comics as the poor relation. It's something to be doing until they get a job on television or writing proper novels or, you know, doing films. I mean, for me, that tends to degrade comics a little bit. I think that if comics aren't the art form that they should be, it's the fault of me and the other people in the field. We should be doing something about it. And I think that comics are a wonderful art form, and I think that nobody really, since the great era of American newspaper strips, nobody really has come anywhere close to sort of realising the possibilities of comics. I think there's an awful lot of work to do. It's very much like if the first films had been short children's cartoon films, and as a result of that, people had said, well, this is obviously a medium for kids, then you'd never have had a Citizen Kane, you'd never have had a Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. All these films just would not have happened because they're adult films, and they wouldn't have occurred in a children's medium. And that's what's happened in comics. People say comics are for kids, so therefore, you know, it's got to the stage where unless you want to put a comic out which probably hasn't got a market for it, you do something for kids. Now that's starting to change now, and I could see, with a bit of luck, in 10 years maybe we'll have a medium that will be as important as films or as literature.
In England, though, comics are taken more seriously than in this country?
Perhaps slightly, but I think that in general, in the rest of Europe, in France, in Italy, in Spain, comics are taken very seriously. You'll find a review of a comic book alongside a review of a new ballet or a new film. You can open the papers and nobody thinks that you're retarded for reading comics. It's something that an adult can do without risking social disgrace. You know, whereas I think in this country and in my own country, I think that the people who read comics, well, it's a bit like people who collect barbed wire. It's very interesting, but you wouldn't want one moving in next door to you. You know, and I think there is that stigma attached. You're regarded as abnormal if you don't stop reading comics at the age of 12. You know, and yeah, and that's true in my country as well as yours. It's changing. I mean, hopefully I'll be able to do this job in 10 years and sort of walk down the street and hold my head up proud, you know. But yeah, at the moment, it's still regarded as a very cheap pulp gutter medium.
How do you see that changing? Or how do you see the implementation of that?
Well, I think that, for one thing, we have to break out of the current ghetto that comics are in that comics have been wooing a fairly small audience of fans, because those fans are regular readers, they'll buy the book month after month, they can be depended upon. Now that's good in terms of short-term sales, but in the long term it means that your audience is shrinking and just getting smaller and smaller as you appeal to a more select and specialised minority. What we need to do is to get people who've not read comics before. I did hear from Steve Bissett that on one of the panels that he'd been sort of talking to some of the fans, that there were a lot of Swamp Thing fans who were coming to the book not from comics, but from Stephen King and Peter Straub. And if we can get that sort of readership, if we can grab a part of that adult readership that reads proper, respectable books, then I think we'll be home and dry. I mean, another thing that I would like to see is more women reading comics, because there's a whole vast audience out there who just won't touch a comic book, and I can understand why they won't touch it, because there's really nothing in comics to attract a woman, because it's mainly boys' power fantasies, you know, which as a boy, I mean, I enjoy them as much as anybody else, but I can see that for women there's something lacking, and I think DC are starting to move in that direction. They're planning to sort of do things that perhaps will drag in the women readers, and I think that would be a big step forward.